Perfume sucks right now. Not perfume itself. Perfume is still beautiful, but perfume culture? Yeah, that kinda sucks. The brands are weird, the clone houses are getting arrogant, and the internet has turned fragrances into a strange mix of hype, marketing, and performance competitions. Somewhere along the way, this hobby stopped being about smell and started being about noise. So today I want to talk about what's actually going wrong in the fragrance world. Because if you've been in this hobby for a while, you've probably felt it too. Something is off. Let's start with the niche fragrances, because niche used to mean something exciting, creative freedom, bold ideas, perfumes that designer brands would never dare to make. And sometimes that still happens, but lately there's a strange trend. Some ultra niche perfumes feel less like fragrances and more like concepts in a bottle. You read the notes and they sound fascinating. Concrete after rain, metal dust, cold smoke, burnt paper. And look, I respect artistic experimentation. But here's the problem. A fragrance still needs to function as a fragrance. Something someone might actually want to wear. Sometimes it feels like these perfumes were designed less for people and more for reviewers to have something to talk about. They're interesting, of course, they're complex, usually, they're artistic, yep, but try wearing them to dinner. Suddenly, the artistic experiment becomes a social experiment. And this raises a weird question. Who exactly are these fragrances for? But here's where it actually gets ironic, because while some niche brands are going extremely experimental, others are going the exact opposite. Instead of creativity, we're getting fragrances that smell suspiciously like designer fragrances, just with better packaging. Sweet woods, vanilla, ambroxan, soft musks. The same structures repeated again and again. Now, don't get me wrong, those styles can smell great. But when you're paying $250 or $300 for a fragrance, you probably expect something more than designer fragrance in a luxury bottle. Niche used to promise creative freedom. Now, sometimes it feels like we're just getting premium designer fragrances, and that's it. And then we have the clone houses. Oh, the clone houses. And clone houses originally solved the real problem. They made expensive fragrances accessible, and that was great. But something has shifted. Clone houses have become bold. Very bold. Every clone now claims to be the perfect dupe, the closest clone ever, better than the original. Now, think about that for a second. Apparently, every clone released this week is the closest clone ever made. Statistically, that seems unlikely, and the prices are creeping up too. Clone houses used to be affordable alternatives, and that was really cool. Now some clones are $70, $80, even $100. And at this point, you start asking a simple question. Is this still a clone house, or just another fragrance brand with aggressive marketing? And then we go to the internet, because fragrance content has developed to extremes. On one side, we have the niche snobs, the people who talk about fragrance like it's a philosophy lecture. Everything is about nuance, about complexity, about subtle artistic depth that apparently only a few enlightened noses can understand. Sometimes it feels less like fragrance appreciation and more like a secret society. Then on the other side, you have the dupe bros, where every clone is incredible. Every clone is the closest ever. Every clone is better than the original. If every fragrance you review is amazing, you're not reviewing fragrances, you're just doing marketing. Another strange trend in fragrance culture right now is the obsession with performance, longevity, projection, sillage. People talk about fragrances like they're evaluating military equipment. How many hours? How far does it project? Can it fill a room? Listen, not every fragrance needs to dominate a building for 14 hours. Sometimes a fragrance is meant to be subtle, personal, intimate. But if a fragrance doesn't perform like a nuclear reactor, people call it a failure, which is a strange way, to say the least, to judge something that's supposed to be artistic. Then there's the compliment culture. Everything now revolves around compliments, compliment getter, panty dropper, mass appealing. But fragrance was never meant to be a social metric. It's personal expression, mood, atmosphere, memory. When everything becomes about compliments, you lose the magic that made fragrance interesting in the first place. And here's the one people rarely say out loud. A lot of fragrances today smell the same. I mean, not identical, but structurally similar. Sweet woods, amber, vanilla, musks, slightly different twists, but the same underlying DNA, which creates this strange situation. There are hundreds of fragrances released every year, actually there are thousands of them, but very few of them actually feel new. It feels like the fragrance world isn't running out of perfumes, but it's running out of ideas. And finally, hype. Oh, the hype. Some fragrances today have the lifespan of a meme. They explode on TikTok. Everyone talks about them for 2 months, then suddenly they disappear. Not because they were bad, but because the algorithm moved on, and the conversation moves on with it. Now, after all of that, you might think I hate the fragrance world. I actually don't. I love fragrance because at its best, fragrance is emotional, it's creative, personal. The problem was never perfume. The problem is everything around it. The marketing, the hype, the noise. And that's exactly why I started this channel. Not to hate on fragrances and not to hype everything either. Just to talk about them honestly. The good ones, the bad ones, the overpriced ones, the hidden gems. No snobbery, no hype. Just balanced fragrance reviews. So if you love fragrance, but sometimes feel like the conversation around it has gotten a little weird, you might feel at home here.